Hello, fairy tale things. Austin here. I love animation, but I especially love Shrek more than any other movie ever made. I've probably seen the 4 Shrek films and even the 2 Puss in Boots movies hundreds of times over and over again, studying the director's commentaries, reading behind-the-scenes information, useless like that. I have an almost encyclopedia-like knowledge of the world of Shrek, so I thought it would be fun to make this thing. And this is the big one, folks, the Shrek iceberg. Everything you ever wanted to know about Shrek in a single video. I guarantee there will be things in here that you don't know, because I'm totally crazy and I got problems, man. I know too much about Shrek. So we're going to be looking at this iceberg, and if you want to see it real quick, here it is. You can pause it and see how much of the stuff you can guess, how much you know, kind of quiz yourself as an ultimate Shrek fan. But I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to go in each layer of this ogre-layered iceberg, and we're going to discover the secret world of Shrek, the stuff you never knew about within the swamp. So, getting right into it, layer number 1, Shrek. Chris Farley. Chris Farley was an SNL actor that was originally cast as Shrek before his untimely and tragic death.
Man, there's nothing like a fire and a noble romantic mission to warm the cockles of your heart.
Yeah. I like my cockles room temperature, thank you very much.
Hey, if you're not doing this for cockle warming, why are you doing it?
Simple. Fartwad gets his princess, I get what I want.
Many of you already know this. It's well documented that Chris Farley was supposed to be Shrek. So I'll tell you something more interesting instead. Shrek's original character design was directly based off of Chris Farley. When Mike Myers took over, they actually had the design team redesign Shrek to not look so much like Farley. You see, Mike Myers and Chris Farley were best buds. So I'm sure it was a little weird for Mike Myers to be voicing a character that essentially was animated just like his dead best friend. I mean, that's gotta be depressing. This is where Shrek's infamous eyebrows come in. You all know the Dreamworks face meme. Shrek didn't have brows until Mike Myers stepped in. And the reason he has those is they're supposed to be Mike Myers' big eyebrows. So, pretty interesting that one of Shrek's most defining features came from that redesign. Shrek Super Slam. Shrek Super Slam is a video game for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube, loosely based off of the Super Smash Bros. Series. While rip-offs of Smash Bros. Are pretty commonplace nowadays, it was unusual when it came out. It may be one of the first, if not the first, Smash clone, and the game has a lot of love and attention poured into it, and are looking for just a little more extra Shrek in your life. I mean, who doesn't need extra Shrek in your life? I would say watch the cutscenes on YouTube. They are quite something.
Think of my sweet ride. This baby is one of a kind. Twin cam caramel engine, rack and pinion snickerdoodles, and butternut crunch pistons. And look at these kicking rams.
McFarlane Toys. McFarlane made the original line of action figures for the first Shrek movie. I did do a video going over the history of this line, so watch that if you want to know all the details. But rather than your usual movie-based line, Todd McFarlane had a bit of a personal stake in Shrek. He even worked on the Shrek video game and designed characters for the Shrek world. So the Shrek line was a labor of love for him, and I think today it's one of the best 6-inch action figure lines ever made. Dreamworks face. All the Dreamworks characters, for some reason, have big eyebrows, and they all do this thing where they raise one eyebrow above the other. I think it's to give their characters a sense of attitude that Disney does not have. If you look at all the covers of Disney movies, they're all friendly and fun. But if you look at the covers of Dreamworks movies, they're all edgy and cool. So, I guess that was all part of Dreamworks branding. Funnily enough, Disney later started doing the Dreamworks face themselves. I feel good test animation. This refers to the only footage we have of the Chris Farley Shrek cut. This original version was animated by a studio called Propellerhead, not Dreamworks PDI. And this it was just test reel. It's just this like 10 seconds. It was so awful that Jeffrey Katzenberg stormed out of the room when it was screened to him, and the whole movie was started from scratch. What's interesting about this footage is that it is animated by a different team, so it's done motion capture. So if you've ever seen something like Mars Needs Moms or The Polar Express, which are motion capture movies where the characters move really uncanny, Shrek is like that. And there's just something about a motion captured Shrek with that original Chris Farley design, mind you, motion captured walking through a dark medieval village that is just so unsettling that this footage is absolutely legendary on the internet. The Eels. The Eels are basically Dreamworks' Shrek house band. They're a rock band, and they've never really had a hit, but they have consistently put out albums. They're signed on to Dreamworks Records, and they're in every Shrek movie, except the Two Puss in Boots movies, which is pretty unusual. I mean, not even Smash Mouth is featured in all the Shrek movies. But the Eels are very much the band of Shrek. They usually have these kind of grungy songs that play during the middle of the movie, more somber moments. In the first film, it's when Shrek and Fiona are on their date. In the second film, it's when Shrek is reading Fiona's horrifying diary, and in the third film, it's in the opening scene when Shrek is preparing to become the king of Far, Far Away. So they always play at pivotal moments. I think they're a pretty underrated band, and they're pretty closely tied to the Shrek universe. Shrek is love, Shrek is life. The phrase Shrek is love, Shrek is life comes from an anonymous 4chan post from 2013 about a supposed 9-year-old boy and the character of Shrek having a very disturbing encounter, we'll say, for the YouTube censors. The post itself is quite twisted and disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised if you look into this, but it does end with the tagline, Shrek is love, Shrek is life. This came right at the onset of popular meme culture, and especially video games like Garry's Mod and Team Fortress, so there were many recreations of this 4chan storyline within what we call the Valve games, like Garry's Mod, Source Filmmaker. It was just a big thing on the internet, and it was a big reason why Shrek started to catch on as part of meme culture. Shafrillis Productions. Shafrillis Productions is a YouTube channel that has reviewed all of the Shrek movies extensively. I would compare his videos best to Red Letter Media, in the sense that these are dead serious critiques of the Shrek movies that really go into the nuances of each film and help give the audiences a better understanding of why each Shrek film works. Except for Shrek the Third, that one's got a lot of problems. But I think his reviews are very entertaining and very informative. They blew up online, they're very popular, and they've been an invaluable resource for me. I regularly watch them. I've seen a lot of animation channels review Shrek, but I've never seen somebody review Shrek as a real movie, if that makes any sense. Like, Shrek is an important cartoon, but it was also a big genre picture. I mean, for God's sake, it won an Oscar at the Academy. It's a pretty big deal. So I think Shafrillis gave the movies their respect with some really popular, really well done professional reviews. Definitely watch these if you haven't. Every Shrek fan owes themselves to watch these. They are a fantastic love letter to the movies.
This is worse than love letters.
Okay, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I would say grab your ogre-sized coffee, grab a snack, play some Fortnite or something, because strap in, folks, we're here for the long haul with the donkey tier. Chimichanga Stand. The Chimichanga Stand is a joke from Shrek Forever After, where Cookie the Ogre, played by Craig Robinson, wants to know when the ogres are planning their large battle to overthrow Rumpelstiltskin, where he can put his chimichanga stand. I put this in here because I think it's a funny and underrated joke. It's funny, okay? Shrek Body Wash. Okay, now we're getting interesting. Shrek has always had a lot of body wash with the movies. I think this is because he bathes in the first scene of the Shrek franchise, and I don't know, it's kind of gross with the mud everywhere, and generally, boys, like when I was a kid, like making a mess in the bathtub, so there must have been some great synergy there to sell, like, swampy Shrek body wash. For whatever reason, there's a crazy amount of different Shrek body wash. They all come in cool, fun bottles, and I would love to collect all these. I think they would look great on a shelf. But the Shrek body wash would get a little bit of notoriety when it was featured in the Disney movie Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, that film is a sequel to Roger Rabbit, so all the Disney characters are actors in the movie, and they definitely got a problem with Dreamworks and Shrek. They take more than a few shots at Dreamworks, and when they go to this warehouse, it's supposed to be a warehouse of unsold merchandise. There's stacks of unsold Shrek body wash that is being melted. Seth Rogen's character is like laughing about how they're burning all the Shrek merch, I guess because Disney 25 years later can't take the L. When this scene played when I first watched the movie, I actually scratched my head. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. Shrek body wash is no joke the best-selling kids body wash ever made. This stuff was so popular, you would have never found it on clearance. It would have never been sent to discount stores. Interestingly enough, I did look at the original script for Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and it was supposed to be Emperor's New Groove body wash, which is a much funnier joke because that movie did not do so hard at the box office, so I don't know why it was changed from Emperor's New Groove to Shrek at the last minute, other than Disney can't handle making fun of themselves, and instead has to make fun of Dreamworks. Xbox game. The original Shrek had a movie tie-in game with the original Xbox, but it's a bit more than a movie tie-in. Like I stated earlier, Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn and McFarlane Toys, was on the design team and designed a lot of original characters for the game. The game itself was also a launch title for the original Xbox, and it was pretty state-of-the-art. Yeah, the game was actually developed by DICE. That's the same studio behind the Star Wars Battlefront games. They make technically demanding and powerful games. And the Shrek game is pretty impressive. Graphically, it looks great, which ties into something we're gonna look later on in the iceberg. The game is also interesting because it's based off of an earlier script of Shrek, the Farley version. Remember that test animation where everything was medieval, gothic, and dark? Well, that's what the game was modeled on. So if you want to get a closer look at what the world of Far, Far Away and Duloc would have looked like with that original art style, play the Shrek game. You won't see Fiona or even Farquaad or any of the characters. You will instead see a bunch of Todd McFarlane monsters and dark castles that is supposedly Shrek. It's pretty interesting. Rebel Taxi actually did a video on this game, which I would highly recommend. It's a great look into it. Scrapped election plot. The original plot of Shrek 2 was that there was a vacancy in the Kingdom of Far, Far Away's royal line, and rather than straight up take the throne in the monarchy, Shrek decides to hold an election between him and all of the celebrities of Far, Far Away. Supposedly, this would have been a political satire film and would have touched on issues during the Bush administration. But the plot was scrapped in favor of a much more politically neutral plot, as the higher-ups at Dreamworks felt this would alienate more conservative audience goers. Pretty interesting. Hollywood makes very politically charged stuff these days, but back then it was a different world. I actually am really glad they did this. I'm very happy with the Shrek 2 we got. I think Shrek 2, you could consider it the greatest movie ever made. I truly believe that. I see it whenever they re-release it at the theater. It's just one of those movies that makes me feel so, so good. It was my Shrek movie of choice when I was a kid, and it's very near and dear to me. However, Shrek the Third was a pretty rough film, and it does have a plot about Shrek not wanting the throne. I think if they had used the election plot for Shrek the Third, the movie would have turned out a lot better. But, of course, that was much closer to the election of 2008, so maybe as things got closer to the election proper, Dreamworks thought it was a little weird to release such a politically charged movie. Donkey Movie was just announced by Eddie Murphy. He's in the new Beverly Hills Cop film. Of course he is. He is Axel Foley after all. But he's for some reason using the press tour of Beverly Hills Cop to talk about Shrek 5 a lot. He's actually our only source of Shrek 5 leaks. So, Eddie Murphy, if you're watching this video, and I know you are, please continue to leak more Shrek 5 info. Thank you. But he has mentioned that after Shrek 5, the Donkey Movie will enter production, which I'm really excited for. I actually think a Donkey Movie has the potential to be better than Shrek 5. I love Eddie Murphy, and a donkey-centric movie may be completely awesome. By the time you're watching this video, we may already have a trailer or details, or heck, a few years down the road, you may have already seen the movie. So, let me know in the comments if the movie was good or not. Double Disc Edition. When the original Shrek was released on DVD, it was released in Double Disc Edition. There were 2 discs containing a ton of special features. This is a super nice release of Shrek. It comes in a thick case with a big gold border. I just love it so much. About a year though after that release, Shrek was repackaged as part of its Dreamworks Kids line. It was given a Dreamworks border, and it was slimmed down to just 1 disc. Now, despite this, none of the special features were actually cut, which I do commend Dreamworks for. The first Shrek movie has so many strange special features that could have been sliced, but it was all kept for the second release. However, for the sake of clarity and simplicity, I do actually prefer the Double Disc Edition. Like I said, there's so many special features on that first Shrek, I think it's more palatable across 2 discs. Also, the menus just look a little cleaner. Around 2010, when Shrek Forever After came out, Dreamworks did significantly slice the special features off of the original Shrek. They basically cut everything except the karaoke dance party, which is such a shame. So pick up an original DVD copy of Shrek. It's loaded with great stuff, and I like the original case more. It was the beginning of DVD, so I think they were trying to justify the high price point. I mean, what were DVDs in 2001? They were like 30 to 40 bucks, right? So, it's a good DVD. William Steig. William Steig is the creator of Shrek. He wrote the original book that Shrek is based off of. He actually was born around the turn of the 20th century, believe it or not, and wrote many books, many drawings, and became a very prolific artist during his time. He drew for a magazine called The New Yorker, and he was just a very popular contemporary artist of the time. He would create Shrek very late into his life, I believe as he was nearing his 80s. So I guess you're never too old to find success. What's amazing is that William Steig actually lived to be almost 100, and actually saw the release of Shrek and its worldwide fame. I believe he died shortly before Shrek 2 released, and the movie was dedicated to him. So how about that? I mean, imagine being born at the turn of the century, seeing both world wars, and creating a book in the 90s called Shrek that would end up becoming the most popular icon, arguably, of the 21st century. Like, this is a man that exists essentially across 3 centuries. It's pretty amazing. William Steig, man, a legend. Dama Fortuna. Dama Fortuna is the name of the witch that cursed Fiona into her ogre form in the original version of Shrek. She was kept pretty late until production, I believe even when Chris Farley was recast. Now, in Shrek 2, we do get the fairy godmother, a sort of relative to Fiona who has magical powers and is known for curses and reversing curses. And she actually is referred to Dama Fortuna in some of the books and supplementary material. So technically, the fairy godmother is Dama Fortuna. Now, did fairy godmother cause Fiona's curse? I actually doubt that. I don't think she had anything to do with it. We'll talk more about Fiona's curse deeper into the Borg. Shrek the Third HD DVD. Like I said, Dreamworks went all in with DVD. Perhaps a little too much so, because they went all in with HD DVD, the ill-fated sequel format DVD that sort of got its clock punched by Blu-ray. But when Blu-ray debuted, Disney was a strong backer of it. Disney supported Blu-ray, so naturally that meant Dreamworks was going to support the format that wasn't Disney, because how great would it have looked if HD DVD did succeed and none of the Disney movies were on the format? That would have been a win for Dreamworks. Fiona's mini dresses. Fiona's dress changes a lot throughout Shrek, even more than you may have realized. Of course, she's got her classic green dress, and the white dress worn at the Far, Far Away ball at the end of Shrek 2. Fiona's green dress also changes a lot. In the first movie, she wears a very form-fitting, comfy dress, probably because it's the dress she spent her whole life in up on that tower. It's gotta be comfy. But by Shrek 2, she switches to a much more regal, more traditional dress with big poofs on the side. You can see this if you compare the action figures, how different the dresses are. By Shrek Forever After, she gets a very ornate green dress that's a bit of a combination of both, and I really like this dress, so how about that? Fiona's dress changes many times throughout Shrek.
Puss in Boots layer.
Teen Shrek. Okay, what you're about to see is very cursed. This is Teen Shrek. Yep. Originally, Jeffrey Katzenberg intended Shrek to be 4 parts and 1 spin-off. But that spin-off was not supposed to be Puss in Boots, but originally a young Shrek movie that would have followed Shrek's origin and supposedly how he got into that swamp, whatever that meant. And yeah, I just don't like this design at all. Why is he so skinny? It's bothering me so much. Eventually, Katzenberg was so pleased with Shrek Forever After that the 5th spin-off film was changed into Puss in Boots. But the teen Shrek was still in Shrek 4 as part of a flashback opening scene. That's what this art is from. This is part of the Shrek 4 concept artwork. But it was cut, thankfully. Motion Gate Park, Dubai. You may be familiar with the mini Shrek experiences at Universal Studios, but you've probably not heard of Motion Gate Park, Dubai. This is a theme park in Dubai, as you guessed, with a very immersive Shrekland that may even rival the Florida Shrekland. It's pretty good. You've got Shrek's house, you've got the swamp, but you've even got a dock ride. It is basically a retelling of the original Shrek movie being done as a puppet show being put on by Shrek and Fiona for their kids. It's really cute how they basically take what is just a summary of the movie with cheap cutouts and actually turned it into an in-universe thing. Obviously, the people who made this ride did not have a very high budget and could not build out all these scenes, so they chose to build them out as puppets, and I think that's really, really clever. Watch it on YouTube, it's a very fun ride. The Proclaimers. The Proclaimers are a Scottish duo that produces pop music. They were only featured in one Shrek movie, the first film, and they only had one song called I'm On My Way. It's what plays when Shrek and Donkey are journeying to the Dragon's Keep. And it's a really good song and fits the movie. I think a lot of people like it when it plays in the film, but don't quite know what the band is or where it comes from. But it comes from a band called the Proclaimers, and this band is very personal to me. My parents grew up on them, they were diehards, and they actually met the Proclaimers. They tell me that they were cool people, so they've been playing these songs literally since I was a baby in the crib. I'm quite familiar with their album Sunshine on Leith and Hit the Road, and these albums are so Shrek-coded, you just have to listen to them. They've got that thick Scottish accent that is just perfect for Shrek, and many of their songs are about family and finding happiness and purpose, and they're just such a sweet, feel-good band. I'm actually shocked that none of their other stuff was featured in Shrek. Their music just fits not just the mood, but the tone and the message of the movies so perfectly. If you love Shrek, you should listen to the Proclaimers. You will be very happy you spent an afternoon doing that. It's such good music. Also, good road trip music. If you're traveling cross country, pop in the Proclaimers. You will not be disappointed. They're truly the underdog of the Shrek soundtrack. All-Star Racing. Dreamworks All-Star Racing is a video game released for the PlayStation 4. It's a solid game. Not a lot of people knew about it, and I actually had a lot of trouble finding this game. It seems to be a difficult physical game to release, but you could always buy it digitally. It's great because it's new, so you have a lot of classic Dreamworks characters in the game, but you also have some of the new ones, like Kitty Softpaws is in the game. We also have Death from Puss in Boots, who's a DLC character, and then of course, you know, King Julian, Mr. Wolf, and Diane Foxington is in this game. So that automatically makes it a great game. Check it out. It's fun to play with friends. I've had a lot of fun. It's not exactly Mario Kart, but you know, if you have friends who like Dreamworks and cartoons, it makes for a pretty fun night of gaming. Puss in Boots Netflix show. The Adventures of Puss in Boots was a Netflix show, loosely based off of the Puss in Boots movies. It doesn't directly tie into them. There's no Kitty Softpaws, there's no Perito. It's a completely standalone adventure where Puss in Boots discovers a magical hidden city, and it's loosely based off of Don Quixote. It's got like 5 seasons and over 100 episodes, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Even a Shrek superfan like myself, I have not seen every episode, but I have watched some highlights, and it's got some pretty good moments. It's actually got a lot of love and care poured into it, and some of the writing is pretty clever. So I'd say not exactly binge it, but you know, kind of skim it, check out the good episodes. It's Brimstone. This is a line that Shrek says when he's approaching the Dragon's Keep.
It's Brimstone. We must be getting close.
Yeah, right. Brimstone.
I always liked the way this was delivered, both from Eddie Murphy and Mike Myers, and I use it for my username. That's why I included it. I'm Austin the Brimstone. If you're curious what exactly Brimstone is, it's whatever is left when a theoretical god smites the earth. So like if Zeus throws a lightning bolt at a mountain, any of the rocks that his lightning bolt hit would be brimstone. It's basically a matter of an otherworldly, godly-like presence. So pretty interesting stuff, right? I love Greek myth, Roman myth, so I found a username that directly ties to fantasy and also Shrek at the same time. Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular. Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular, and that's a mouthful, is a DVD that was packed in with Shrek Forever After. It came in a double pack. It was on its own disc, but later on, it was included on the Shrek Complete Blu-ray box sets. So if you have any of the Shrek box sets released after 2010, you have this Christmas special. Everyone knows about Shrek the Halls, which is aired annually still, I believe, on ABC, but nobody talks about Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular. It's about half the length of Shrek the Halls. I think it's only like 13 minutes, maybe. It's really short, but it is very fun, and it's got a lot of fun Christmas songs, and this Christmas special is actually the final point of the modern Shrek timeline before we jump into the Puss in Boots movies. So today, this is the last time we ever saw Princess Fiona or Donkey or any of the real main Shrek characters. Now, Shrek has appeared in other stuff, but as for the world of Shrek, you know, Fiona, the kids, this was it. This was the last time we saw it. So, pretty interesting. Thriller video. So Scared Shrekless was the Shrek Halloween special that, again, like Shrek the Halls, is still aired annually and is quite easily available on DVD. But there was actually a second Shrek Halloween special called Shrek Thriller. And this is a sort of parody and tribute to Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I really like this video. It's very fun. It's got a lot of good jokes and good animation, and even features appearances by some of the deceased Shrek villains, which is nice. So check this out if you haven't. I don't think it's on YouTube due to music copyright, so you have to track down the DVD. It wasn't released on its own. This is only available on that Blu-ray box set. Trapped in an Epic Tale. Trapped in an Epic Tale is a special episode of the Puss in Boots show titled Puss in Book, cleverly enough, where Puss is trapped within an interactive book, and you as the viewer must choose what happens to him through a variety of choices. It's basically a video game, think kind of like a point-and-click adventure. This was something Netflix did a few years ago, where they made all of their kid shows have an interactive episode like this. Fiona Layer. Janine Garofalo. Janine Garofalo was originally cast as Princess Fiona. Not only that, but she recorded pretty much the entire movie as Fiona. About 80%. No footage has ever surfaced of Janine Garofalo as Fiona, which is pretty wild. We have Chris Farley footage. We have all sorts of pre-production material. But the fact we've never seen this is pretty odd. Supposedly Cameron Diaz was brought in pretty late, after Eddie Murphy had already recorded the whole movie with Chris Farley at that point, and later Mike Myers. I think she was probably recast because Janine Garofalo is very mean in nature, and while I think that would have worked with the more lovable Chris Farley Shrek, Mike Myers' Shrek is mean and brutish, kind of like Janine Garofalo. So I think Cameron Diaz was perfect for Fiona. She's very sweet and fits, you know, the whole opposites attract thing, right? The big, kept-off Shrek and the more socially minded, friendly Fiona are a perfect match. I think Cameron Diaz is excellent as Fiona in every movie, but I would like to at least see one scene of Janine Garofalo as Fiona. Would have been an interesting alternate world there. Shrek's parents. We don't really know who Shrek's parents are, unless of course you've seen Shrek the Musical, where Shrek's parents do exist, though I guess that's non-canonical. Shrek does say that his parents tried to eat him, so I've always just kind of assumed that Shrek's parents were really unintelligent monster-like creatures, and that it was Shrek himself who decided to go for the more civilized bachelor lifestyle that he goes for in the first movie. I really don't care who Shrek's parents are, and I hope we don't see them. That sounds like it'd be really dumb. We don't need to know who Shrek's parents are, like who cares? The Pentaveret. The Pentaveret refers to a secret society that Mike Myers refers to in the movie So I Married an Axe Murderer. This whole idea of the Pentaveret was something that Mike Myers was pretty passionate about. And he did recently make a movie, or I guess a limited series on Netflix, called The Pentaveret that follows this secret society. And supposedly, Shrek is a part of the Pentaveret. He actually does appear in the series. It's a Universal Studios Shrek costume. But in the context of the show, that is not supposed to be a costume. That is supposed to be Shrek. The character of Shrek is in the Pentaveret. Pretty crazy. It actually marked Mike Myers' return to Shrek. It was the first time the character appeared since that Shrek Donkey's Christmas Shrektacular special I mentioned. So, yeah, who knew Shrek was involved with some conspiracy theories? OJ's White Bronco Chase. Yep, we're going here. June 17th, 1994, O.J. Simpson allegedly murders Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown and is on the run in his white Bronco from the police. Fast forward to May 19th, 2004, and in Shrek 2, Donkey is transformed into a white Bronco horse and flees from the far, far away police, in a joke for the adults in the audience. If you listen to the filmmaker's commentary, they felt that this reference would feel dated and fly over audiences' heads. And I actually saw Shrek 2 recently when it was re-released into theaters, which happened to be the weekend OJ died.
so it was fresh in everyone's minds, and it was the biggest laugh of the entire theater. So I don't think this joke goes over people's heads. I think it's one of the best jokes in the movie, and it certainly lands.
Fortnite Outhouse. Fortnite is known for its many collaborations, but back when the game first released, before it had any licensed characters whatsoever, it did have one licensed Easter egg. You see, the outhouse in Fortnite is very clearly Shrek's outhouse. They're not even subtle about it. Over the years, people have speculated that maybe Shrek would appear in Fortnite, and for a while it just kind of seemed like this outhouse was just an inside joke, like one of the employees that liked Shrek worked on the game, but recently Epic Games, the people behind Fortnite, have actually been sending out surveys inquiring if people would be interested in a Shrek collaboration event. And considering Shrek just had a big collaboration with Roblox, I would not be surprised if Shrek appears in Fortnite very, very soon. All-Star Oi. Okay, so this is actually supposed to be I'm a Believer Oi, not All-Star. It was a mistake I made, but the iceberg has already been completed and compiled, and I don't want to edit this thing anymore, so we'll say it's an anti-piracy measure, yeah, so nobody steals the iceberg, because this one is a mistake, and anyone else who tries to do this iceberg is going to have their head scratched when they get to this one. So let me decipher it for you, in case you don't know what this is. When I'm a Believer is performed at the end of the original Shrek, there's a gnome on a guitar, and he does like this, and he goes, Oi! And for whatever reason, that is not included on the soundtrack release. It's not even a part of the Smash Mouth music video, and nobody really knows who says that. Like, I have no idea. I've tried to look into this, and I can't find any information, so I think it may have just been an audio track put in by a Dreamworks editor. I don't think it's actually Smash Mouth saying this. I think if they did, they would have included it at least in the soundtrack version, or even some of the live performances of the song. But as it is, I don't know. I don't know why the elf says, Oi. I think it's odd. Big Green Disc.
The Big Green Disc is the name of the second disc of Shrek the Third, with the special features on it. It was only released in the United Kingdom, because in the United States, we just got a standard one-disc Shrek the Third release. I don't believe there's any differences between the two. I think all the special features on the Big Green Disc were just included on the regular release in the US. I don't know why they split it into two discs in the UK, other than a marketing gimmick.
I just think the name is very unfortunate. Big Green Disc, like, what were they thinking? Other than the obvious. Steve Martin's Donkey. Before there was Eddie Murphy, there was Steve Martin. Yep, Steve Martin was originally cast as Donkey. Now this did not get very far at all, and there's no recorded lines. Steve Martin never actually showed up to play Donkey, so this one is a bit more distant from Janine Garofalo and Chris Farley. But there is some concept artwork of Donkey from this original version of the movie, and I think it's really cute that they gave him Steve Martin's hair. You know, kind of like, if you know Steve Martin, he's kind of got that gray toupee that kind of flops over, and they totally drew that on Donkey. I love Steve Martin, I love the movie Parenthood, and I think it would have been great to see what a Steve Martin version of Donkey would have been like. Onion Carriage Blind Mice. So I don't know why this one took so long for me to notice, but have you ever noticed that the horses pulling the onion carriage at the end of Shrek and in the Shrek 4D ride are actually the three blind mice transformed into horses? You can see this pretty clearly. The fairy godmother, not the evil fairy godmother, but the other fairy godmother from the first movie, she waves her wand and turns the mice into the horses. I don't know, I never noticed that until recently. From Swamp to Screen. This was a coffee table book released for Shrek 2, and it is a coffee table book that extensively goes through the production of both original Shrek films, Shrek 1 and 2. There's so much cool concept artwork in this book, and some really amazing behind-the-scenes stuff that you won't find on the internet. It's definitely worth having a copy of this. I love to just sit back with my coffee and flip through this book on a rainy day. It's a really awesome book. The Lord Farquaad Lair. Shrek's London Adventure. Shrek's London Adventure is a tourist trap in the heart of London with light Shrek theming. You kind of walk through a bunch of corridors and meet some fairy tale characters, loosely interact with them, and then take a photo with like a digital Shrek. Think like the Evermore Park meets Willy Wonka's Glass Glow, which I know that sounds awful. And look, I have no qualms with any of the performers of this attraction. I think given the material, they're doing great. But compared to the Shrek Land in Dubai and the one in Florida, this attraction is pretty chintzy, let's be honest. However, I will give this attraction credit. It does have a really sick gift shop that has some of the coolest Shrek merchandise that you will only find in this attraction. So I do hope one day to go here before it shuts down, if only for that gift shop, because there's some pretty cool toys in that shop. Deferred shading.
This one takes us back to that original Shrek Xbox game. Did you know that that game is the very first video game to use deferred shading? This is a lighting technique in games where the shadows and lighting around characters and objects is rendered in real time. Pretty impressive for a 2001 game. I guess Shrek has always been pushing computer graphics forward, whether it's in video games or movies.
Dark Horse Comics.
Comic publisher Dark Horse, best known for their Star Wars comics, released a Shrek miniseries back in 2003. Although primarily meant as a tie-in for the Universal Studios Shrek 4D ride, the comic also features a few other short stories that could have taken place between Shrek 1 and 2. The comic is a solid read. I really love the artwork. It's just so cool looking, and this is just a fun, obscure piece of media for any Shrek fan.
Shrek Goes Forth. Shrek Goes Forth was the original title of Shrek 4. Now, Shrek 4 went through probably more name changes than any movie I can think of. It was announced as Shrek Goes Forth, but when the movie was actually being released, it was promoted as Shrek the Final Chapter in 3D. And I think somebody realized that that name was a mouthful. So shortly before the film was released, like right up until, they renamed it from Shrek the Final Chapter to Shrek Forever After in 3D. So if you've ever seen marketing material for this movie, it uses both names. Now when the DVD came out, the 3D portion was completely dropped because 3D TVs and 3D movies, that trend was on the way out, and the movie became simply known as Shrek Forever After, which is a great name. Shrek 2018 Reboot. So Illumination acquired Dreamworks in the mid-2010s. Dreamworks was going through some serious financial troubles after a lot of box office bombs. And when Illumination took over Dreamworks, they wanted to handle Shrek and reboot it themselves. So this reboot would have been made by Illumination, the Despicable Me people, and not by Dreamworks. And it's one of those things that we just don't know a lot about. Eventually, it was scrapped, and they decided to pick up production of the Puss in Boots sequel, which had kind of been languishing in development hell at that point. And thank God they did. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, one of the best animated movies ever made. I will take that to my grave. That movie is fantastic. So I'm really glad we didn't get this reboot. PG, in quotation marks. So this just refers to the fact that the Shrek movies really push the boundary of PG. There's a lot of very adult jokes in these movies, and I think had these films been released by an independent studio, they probably would have gotten PG-13 rating, especially Shrek 2. Shrek 2 really pushes it, and Puss in Boots: Last Wish also really pushes it. But Jeffrey Katzenberg, you know, he's Hollywood's lovable jackass. He has a lot of power in the industry, so I'm sure he's able to grease a lot of elbows and get that rating scaled down to PG. Thug 2. So Thug 2 is Tony Hawk's Underground. If you grew up in the 2000s, chances are you played the Tony Hawk games. They're absolutely awesome. I love these games. And the Underground games were definitely the pinnacle of Tony Hawk. These games are awesome. And if Tony Hawk's Underground 2 wasn't cool enough, it contained Shrek. That's right, Shrek in a skateboarding Tony Hawk game. Could you get more 2000s than that? I don't think you could. Shrek is in the game, and he's got an awesome swamp-themed skateboard, and that's about it. He doesn't have a level. I don't even think he has any voice acting. He just kind of is there. Why not? That one's going in my cringe collection. That one's going in my cringe collection is a meme of Shrek with a camera taking a photo, and it's a pretty funny meme. And for a long time, the Lost Media wiki and subculture was convinced that this was a lost scene from a Shrek camera commercial. So they searched for many years and could not find the Shrek camera commercial. I was always pretty skeptical of this search. Being a camera promotion, you know, like a still picture, I always kind of figured this was a poster or a trade ad, like a magazine ad. And it turns out that's what it was. People did find magazine ads that had this exact screenshot in crystal clear 1080p, so we can wrap up that mystery. And building off of that mystery, there are many Shrek magazine trade ads that are not documented that are really cool. I see these listed all the time. There was one recently I saw when Chuck Jones passed away. Dreamworks took a page out of animation magazines and they did this nice tribute render. If you want to see some obscure and possibly rare Shrek Lost Media, look up Shrek magazine ads. Often these are exclusive renders not featured in the movie, and they feature some cool stuff, like Shrek with that camera. Deadly McDonald's Cups. The Deadly McDonald's Cups are the Shrek Forever After glasses that were sold as a premium. So they had Happy Meal toys, but if you spent a couple bucks more, you got these glasses. And the glasses were actually lined with lead paint. Yeah, lead paint. So if you drank out of these, you were going to get lead poisoning. McDonald's had to recall the glasses in what was, I think, the biggest product recall of all time at that point, because they distributed millions of these. And it was a lot of bad publicity. I actually think that the lead glasses may have also contributed to Shrek Forever After's underperformance in the box office. I mean, this was a big news story when it happened. It was a bad look for not just McDonald's, but DreamWorks as well. Farquaad equals Michael Eisner. So when Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney to form DreamWorks Animation, he was not on the best of terms with them. He had a pretty nasty falling out with his superior, Michael Eisner. You see, at the time, Michael Eisner and Frank Wells were the kind of heads of Disney. And they made a promise that if one of them had a vacancy, Jeffrey Katzenberg would be promoted to fill that vacancy. Well, it just so happened that Frank Wells died in a very tragic accident. And Jeffrey Katzenberg thought he was going to become the president of Disney and take Frank Wells' place. But instead, Michael Eisner decided to consolidate power and basically make himself the appointed king of Disney and kind of snubbed Jeffrey Katzenberg out. Katzenberg sued Disney, and Disney actually lost that court battle. They had to pay millions and millions of dollars to Jeffrey Katzenberg in an apology settlement. But it left a pretty big rift there. So the theory is that Lord Farquaad, the tyrant king that displaces all the fairy tale characters in the original Shrek, is a caricature of Disney CEO Michael Eisner. And I only say allegedly because of legal reasons. There is no doubt in my mind that this similarity is completely intentional. I mean, he rules the fairy tale Disney world with an iron fist. Farquaad and Michael Eisner have an absolutely uncanny resemblance. Shrek the Third is skippable. So this is a theory put out by Jax Films, who said that Shrek the Third is completely skippable. And I've kind of tried this myself. You watch Shrek 1, Shrek 2, and then you watch Shrek Forever After. And I will say, He's 100% correct. You can completely skip Shrek the Third. Nothing happens in Shrek the Third that changes the outcome of Shrek Forever After. The only thing that happens is Shrek has babies. But if you watch Shrek Forever After, the movie goes out of its way to recap that Shrek has babies. So, really, Shrek the Third, there's nothing in it. As a matter of fact, it's probably something you'd want to skip because the movie introduces new characters like Arthur Pendragon, the heir to Far Far Away, and Merlin, and all these characters that actually don't come into play in Shrek Forever After. It's almost like more of a nuisance if you watch Shrek the Third and Shrek Forever After because Shrek Forever After pretends like Shrek the Third doesn't happen. I honestly wouldn't mind at all if Shrek 5 included elements from Shrek the Third, like Arthur. I don't know, maybe have him as a bad guy or something like that, because, I don't know, I think it's kind of frustrating that there's a Shrek movie that, while not great, Shrek the Third is not great, is pointless. Like, the movie is pointless. You get nothing out of watching it. And that frustrates me. As somebody that likes canon and continuity, I would like to see some of the plot threads from Shrek the Third addressed, but I don't know. I think at this point, the movie's so wildly unpopular that I don't think Dreamworks will address Shrek the Third ever again. Spielberg's Dragon Edit. So Spielberg's Dragon Edit refers to a scene in the original Shrek when Shrek, Donkey, and Fiona escape from the Dragon's Keep. They look behind them, and we see the dragon, Donkey's wife-to-be, start crying, and she's very sad. And it's just a little scene, but it does set up that the dragon is not a beast, and actually a sympathetic creature and a character that would later come into play later in the movie. This scene was actually not in the film originally. When the almost completed movie was screened for Steven Spielberg, he came up with the scene. He felt that Dragon showing up at the end of the movie and kind of hooking up with Donkey kind of came a bit out of nowhere, and that we as the audience needed to feel sympathy for Dragon. Not fear out of this monster, but sympathy for this sad creature. So this 1-2-second scene was included at Spielberg's request, and I actually think it helps the movie flow so much better. It makes us sympathetic for Dragon, and when she shows up at the Hallelujah sequence near the end of the movie, we as the audience are happy to see her return. So this was a good call on Spielberg's part. Elizabeth. So in Shrek 2, when Donkey is sleeping, he's having a dream, and he says in his sleep, "I'm coming, Elizabeth."
I'm coming, Elizabeth!
Which is a reference to the show Sanford and Son from the 70s. Many audience members thought he was referring to his wife Dragon, and that Elizabeth was the name of the dragon. Now, while this was originally just supposed to be a reference to Sanford and Son, Elizabeth, being a headcanon for Dragon's name, became so wildly popular that it was canonized by Dreamworks, and now Elizabeth is the name of the dragon. So whenever we see Dragon, know that that's Elizabeth. Recent merchandise has really been playing into this name, and I think it's awesome. You can actually get a t-shirt that has Elizabeth the Dragon on it and says Elizabeth.
The Burrito Layer.
Pied Piper. Pied Piper is one of the villains of Shrek Forever After. He's probably the most underrated Shrek villain. He's just so cool. The way he plays his flute as a way of speaking and hypnotizing people, I just thought he was awesome. And that flute, by the way, he's playing, is played by William Steig's son. So remember William Steig, the creator of Shrek? Well, his son would become a very famous flute musician. That's what he does. He's very skilled in the flute. So I think it's cool that they wrote this character for William Steig's son to play. And my God, does he play that flute. When he does the Shake Your Groove thing cover in the middle of the movie, that is peak. SML. SML refers to Super Mario Logan, a YouTube channel about plush characters going on adventures. And one of these characters is Shrek, who would become very popular in the Super Mario Logan canon. I have to say this all from a distance because I don't know anything about Super Mario Logan. This is all very alien to me, but I do know that that one Shrek plush he uses, which is the Hasbro Shrek 2 plush, people wisely pointed out in the comments to my Hasbro Shrek video, that plush is pretty much impossible to get now because of the demand for Super Mario Logan. So I think it's funny that that plush has become really collectible and desirable because of that YouTube channel. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble is a children's book from the 1960s by William Steig about an anthropomorphic donkey who turns into a rock. It's a very charming book, and it's become quite popular among schools and book fairs. It's had merchandise. Donkey does actually reference the novel, not the novel, but the children's book.
I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
There was an animated adaptation of Sylvester and the Magic Pebble in the 1990s, which was narrated by John Lithgow, who would later play Lord Farquaad. So it seems that Sylvester and the Magic Pebble is always going to be tangentially connected to Shrek. Ant's photo in Duloc. Okay, so this is a crazy Easter egg that is really hard to spot. When Donkey and Shrek are entering the turnstiles at Duloc, if you look in the ticket booth, there is a photo of Woody Allen from Ants as the character Z, the cartoon ant from Ants. It's really, really hard to see. You have to really look, but it's hanging there. I've never caught this. I saw this on Reddit, and huge props to the guy who did point it out, because that's a tough one to spot. I mean, that's quite the Easter egg. Eric Idle suing Dreamworks.
Hey, do you remember when Eric Idle was in Shrek? No? Well, he was Merlin in Shrek the Third, and he was very forgettable. But I want you to watch these two clips. So what you just saw was the opening of Shrek the Third, where Prince Charming is in a play, and they use coconuts to create the sound of horses. Just kind of a quick cutaway gag, even if you'd call it a gag. And then the second clip was Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where instead of riding horses, they just clop two coconuts together, which sounds like they're riding horses, which is honestly really funny. Well, Eric Idle apparently considered suing Dreamworks over the use of this gag in Shrek the Third. And this isn't like a joke, like he seriously considered doing it. And you can tell he was bitter about it because he's not featured anywhere on the Shrek the Third DVD or any of like the press tour behind the scenes stuff. He's just kind of absent, so I don't know what the deal was there. He didn't end up going through with the lawsuit, he dropped it. But what do you think? Did Eric Idle have any right to sue Dreamworks over that joke?
You gotta have friends, edit. So Donkey sings this song in the first movie, You Gotta Have Friends, by Bette Midler. Bit of a deep cut, probably just something Eddie Murphy liked that he threw in the movie. It's very charming and funny. But for whatever reason, when Shrek was put on streaming services like Netflix and Peacock, they put really loud instrumental music behind Eddie Murphy singing in this. I don't know why they did this. It really muffles out the song, and it's such a bad edit. It's like Star Wars Special Edition bad. I can only guess they did it due to copyright. Maybe Bette Midler had some sort of problem with the song being used, so like, well, we can't cut it out of the movie, but we can muddy it out with this instrumental, but it makes no sense. Like, who's playing that instrumental music? It's not music playing in the background. Eddie Murphy's actually singing the song. I don't know, it's one of those edits that absolutely baffles me. Don't watch Shrek on streaming. They have edited the movies and cut out many of the adult jokes. Weasel, my best friend. So the opening of Shrek 2 is Shrek and Fiona's honeymoon, and the song that plays during that is Accidentally in Love by the Counting Crows. This song was written by the Counting Crows for Shrek, and it fits the sequence perfectly. But that wasn't the song that was supposed to be used. Instead, the pop-punk band Weasel wrote a song called My Best Friend. Now, Weasel is my probably all-time favorite band in the world. I love Weasel, but they made the right call here. This song just doesn't fit this sequence at all, and Counting Crows wrote a very soulful song that fits Shrek and Fiona so well. I mean, Accidentally in Love is Shrek and Fiona. They are accidentally in love. My Best Friend seems to oddly fit Shrek and Donkey more. I don't know why this would have been used for the opening sequence, other than Weasel was having a bit of a comeback after the original Shrek. The Green Album did very well. Maladroit did very well. So this was probably just like a big tie-in thing, but it wasn't used. And the song My Best Friend was eventually included on Weasel's album Make Believe. That album is probably better known as the one that includes Beverly Hills, which was a huge hit for Weasel. Funnily enough, I think that song would have fit Shrek 2 a lot more, considering they go to Beverly Hills. So they did give Weasel the theme song for Shrek Forever After. They do the cover of I'm a Believer that closes out the film, and as of now, the Shrek franchise. So Shrek ends on Weasel. So I think this worked out well. We got an amazing Counting Crows song out of it, and Weasel did a nice ending to Shrek. 9 crimes. Okay, so you really want to talk bad choices in the Shrek soundtrack. 9 crimes. This is a song by Damien Rice about infidelity that has no right being in Shrek at all. It's dark, it's depressing, it's not for kids, and I get that Shrek includes dark themes, but this is just totally off base for Shrek. It has no reason to be in the movie, it doesn't even fit the scene that it's in, and it's just another reason why Shrek the Third boggles the mind. Like, was this movie made by extraterrestrials? What's going on? Like, what the heck? Another one in Shrek the Third that drives me crazy that I should have put on this iceberg is when the opening scream from the immigration song plays when Snow White is attacking the Far, Far Away castle, and then for no reason at all, the song Barracuda starts playing, not the immigration song. I get that Led Zeppelin charges a lot of money for their music. It would have been obscenely expensive to have them in Shrek, but why have just the opening of the song and then lead it into another song? I don't understand Shrek the Third.
Right way for a smack bottom origin. You're going the right way for a smacked bottom is a line of dialogue for the original Shrek film.
Alright, you're going the right way for a smack bottom.
It's a funny line, and according to the director's commentary, director Andrew Adamson says he got into an argument with Mike Myers, and this is what Mike Myers told him, and he thought that was so funny that Myers would simply make up something so clever on the spot, and it was incorporated into the script of Shrek. Except, I'm here to tell you that's not exactly true, as I found the line in an Austin Powers music video from 1999 for the film The Spy Who Shagged Me. He tells it to Madonna at the end of the video.
Going the right way for a smack bottom.
I hope so.
Ooh.
Also, the line was reused in Austin Powers' Goldmember.
Going the right way for a smack bottom, and I don't care who.
Now, this film came out a few years after Shrek, so a lot of people watch Goldmember and think that Austin Powers is referencing Shrek, when it's really just referencing the music video from 1999. Either way, the line is inherently Mike Myers, so I have no doubt it's something he uses in a lot of his comedy.
The Kitty Softpaws layer. Father of the Pride. Father of the Pride was an adult animated show by Dreamworks in the early 2000s about lions in Las Vegas. It doesn't exist anymore, but there used to be a really amazing lion and animal-themed magic show in Las Vegas by 2 flamboyant, fabulous men named Siegfried and Roy, and Dreamworks thought they were the perfect catalyst for an adult animated show. And this show had a lot of production trouble. It was pretty much canceled and only released because the fans demanded it. It's got like 10 episodes, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love this show. If you like Dreamworks in the early 2000s, it's that style of humor. It is much more adult, even more so than Shrek. It really pushes hard on the adult humor.
Didn't survive 3,472 dinners by making small talk with prostitutes.
Hey, I'm not a prostitute.
Yeah. You're working your way through law school, I get it.
In the show, Eddie Murphy is an actor, but he's Donkey.
Me. Do you know how many times I had to hear donkey is an ass, donkey is an ass?
All right, I get it. They're synonyms.
So the character of Donkey is an actor in the Shrek movie. So you gotta have like a Roger Rabbit Rescue Rangers type of thing going on there. The Donkey episode is really weird because Donkey looks super off-model and he's cussing and he's in this very adult show and it's just so odd. Fiona ball gown action figure. So Hasbro made the action figures for Shrek 2, and one of those figures is a bit of a mystery. It's Fiona in her ball gown from the end of the movie, and she comes packaged with her ogre form as kind of a big PVC figure. I have talked about this figure before on my Shrek collecting videos. She only appeared at auction once, and I don't know, like, this figure is so odd. She doesn't show up at all. She's seemingly non-existent from every Shrek collection. And my theory is that this is an unproduced action figure. I don't think she was released, but as it is, it's a mysterious figure. Shrek Tank Mod. There's a horror video game called Left 4 Dead. In the Left 4 Dead community, one of the most popular mods of all time is the Shrek mod. And what this does is it turns the tank, which is the big scary zombie man that chases you, into Shrek. It fits Shrek perfectly because the tank has that big, brutish build. And something funny about the tank is when he appears in the level, it starts playing the scary music that as the tank gets closer to you, the scary music is supposed to get louder and louder. Well, the mod replaces that with All-Star, and it's absolutely hilarious. I remember being 13, 14, and playing Left 4 Dead on my overheating old laptop, and the day I installed the Shrek mod was an amazing day. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. It's a classic mod, you can still download it and still enjoy it to this day. Why did Soft Paws see death? Okay, now we're getting into the deep stuff, the dark lore of Shrek. So in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Puss in Boots can see death because he's on his last life. And it's sort of implied that only Puss in Boots can see death. Think about it. Why didn't the bartender who owns the bar come out and see death? Like, why didn't he see what was going on there? And then when death is at the pie factory in Jack Horner's, none of the other townsfolk look around and see death. And even during the action scene when Goldilocks is battling Jack Horner and they're all in that firefight, only Puss in Boots can seemingly see death. But near the end of the movie, some of the other characters kind of interact with death.
Who's that?
None of them specifically refer to the guy as Death, except Soft Paws.
When you said death was after you, I thought you were just being melodramatic.
She's the only one that mentions Death by name, so she seemingly knows who he is. So even if the other characters saw Death, they would have just seen a big wolf and not known, but Soft Paws knew it was Death. She said, "I didn't know Death was chasing you. I didn't know you meant it literally." She said something like that. And I think that's odd. Does Soft Paws know Death? Has she lost some of her lives? Does she have an experience with death? It kind of opens up a lot of questions, if you think about it. The Baha Men. The Baha Men were a very 90s pop band, known for their song Who Let the Dogs Out. And they were commissioned to do a song for Shrek called Best Years of Our Lives. And this was marketed as Shrek's big single prior to Smash Mouth's I'm a Believer. So Smash Mouth was signed on to Shrek pretty late, and I think the Baha Men were like the original band intended for Shrek, maybe the backup band. They had a big, expensive music video where they went to like a Renaissance fair and danced around. And it's just one of those pieces of Shrek lore that is very forgotten. Like, no one seems to remember this song, but during the promotion of the original Shrek movie, it was heavily promoted. Kitty Soft Paws owners. We never see Kitty Soft Paws owners, but they were supposedly very bad people that Kitty Soft Paws did not trust. Enough so that they declawed her. She mentions being a domesticated house cat, so maybe these were just regular people that couldn't handle having an anthropomorphic cat in their house. Or maybe they were villains. Who knows for certain? Air Guitar Dwarf. On the Shrek Karaoke Party special feature, included on the original DVD, we can see all of the fairy tale characters rocking out. But one of the dwarf is playing an air guitar. Supposedly this is an animation error. They forgot to put the guitar in his hand, so he's just playing an invisible instrument. I don't think this was intentional, but I have noticed this, and over the years I jokingly refer to him as the air guitar dwarf because he looks like he's air guitaring. Nimurak. Nimurak was a cut character from Shrek Forever After. In the movie, you may remember that John Hamm plays this big kind of Chad ogre named Brogan. Originally, that character was named Nimurak, and the twist was going to be that he was Prince Charming from Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third, and that he had a similar curse to Fiona's. He was cut from the movie. There's a lot going on in Shrek Forever After, so I just imagine it was a time thing. That movie is very tight. A lot happens in that movie. Also, that name, Nimurak, is just charming backwards, so pretty clever. Mike Myers, Canadian Shrek voice. When Mike Myers replaced Chris Farley, he recorded the entire movie in his regular Canadian accent.
No one's messenger boy, okay? I'm a delivery boy.
Eventually, he re-recorded the movie in that kind of Scottish brogue. It's technically not supposed to be Scottish. It's like a very particular part of England where he was raised. And he did that because that was the voice that his parents would read fairy tales to him in. So he used the voice because he felt it had an otherworldly fairy tale quality to it. And I think that is so much better than Mike Myers' regular voice. That said, Mike Myers did record the entire movie in his regular voice, and we've never heard this. Presumably this would have been recorded with Janine Garofalo, so perhaps even rarer than that Chris Farley cut is a legendary Canadian Mike Myers cut of Shrek, with possibly Janine Garofalo. Donkey gets frozen solid.
Yet for the last time, Donkey. No. Are you hot? Cause I'm burning up. Shut it, Donkey. I'm sweating like a pig. Only a big pig wearing a thick donkey hair coat. Oh, what a scorcher. I tell you, Shrek, I am an ogre. Whoa!
The Death Layer. The multiverse is real. The multiverse is real. We see an alternate timeline in Shrek Forever After, and Donkey even refers to this as the multiverse. Who knows what other Shrek timelines are out there? Death claimed Lord Farquaad's soul. Think about it. If death is a real force that exists within the Shrek world, then presumably any characters that died in previous films would have came face to face with him. I imagine he would have been pretty quick with it. He only was messing with Puss in Boots because of the whole 9 lives thing kind of pissed him off. Another interesting thing to think about is what death would look like to other people. There's a theory that death is only taking the form of a wolf to scare Puss in Boots as a cat, with the whole cats and dogs kind of thing. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. Death is a anthropomorphic wolf, and while it may make sense for somebody like Puss in Boots or Soft Paws, who I mentioned had recognized death, it may be a little weirdo for someone like Shrek or Fiona to die and see this big scary wolf guy, but who knows? Cursed Universal Shrek Show. The Cursed Universal Shrek Show is the first Shrek stage show at Universal Studios. I believe this one was in Florida, and it opened right when the movie did, and it's pretty rough looking. It seems to not quite understand Shrek, and that these characters, while technically ugly, have to be somewhat appealing for the audience. Like, I know everyone says Shrek's ugly in the movie, but as a character design, he's honestly pretty appealing. He's got those big Disney eyes. He's got an easily recognizable silhouette. He's kind of a big lovable oaf, whereas this Universal one is honestly horrifying. I would run as soon as I see these characters. Duloc is liminal. Duloc is very liminal in design. It almost looks like the back rooms, probably because it's so empty when we see it. Remember, all of the Duloc citizens are required by law to watch the night jousting tournament that Shrek interrupts. So the town is empty when Shrek is there, and there's something about the empty town and also the early CGI look of it being like all white that is just has a very liminal quality to it. Duloc's kind of liminal. What stage of the backrooms is Duloc, y'all? Let me know in the comments. Puss killed all the ogres. So this is another popular Shrek fan theory. I didn't come up with this one, but Puss in Boots in Shrek 2 refers to himself as the ogre killer, which implies that he killed other ogres. And in Shrek Forever After, we see hundreds of ogres that seemingly are not in the regular Shrek timeline. I don't know if I exactly believe this theory, though, and a couple reasons why. One, we do actually see the Shrek Forever After ogres in the prime timeline, in the end of the movie, and also in the Donkey Christmas Shrektacular special. And that special is seemingly canon, so if that special's to be believed, then Brogan and Cookie and all the other ogres are alive in the prime timeline, just, you know, slightly different people. They still know Shrek, though. I guess he walked up to them and was like, hey, I knew you in another timeline. Also, if Puss in Boots was really the ogre killer, you think he would have gotten away with killing Shrek? He wasn't exactly good at his job now, was he? Knowing what we do of Puss in Boots in the 2 spin-off films, that he's very egotistical and also pretty good with social skills and talking his way out of situations, I wouldn't be surprised if the ogre killer was just some name he was using to get more jobs, like some sort of con. That's my headcanon, at least. Because Puss in Boots' origin wasn't slaying ogres, it was hunting for the magic beans with Humpty Dumpty. Where's Arthur? So where the heck is Arthur Pendragon after Shrek the Third? He ends up taking the crown after all and becoming the king of Far, Far Away. This would make him the most powerful Shrek character, except for, I guess, Farquaad and by extension Death. He does rule the land. You'd think at least he would have been mentioned in Forever After. I'm just gonna guess that the writers and filmmakers were embarrassed of Shrek the Third. People like, you know, Andrew Adamson, Conrad Vernon, the kind of creative forces around Shrek. Maybe they had a secret meeting where they're like, look, we're just not gonna mention Shrek the Third again. I said it earlier, but it'd be pretty interesting if in Shrek 5, Arthur was a bad guy. Like, maybe he was a bad king and he mismanaged Far, Far Away. Either way, we do see at the end of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish that Puss is going to Far, Far Away. So maybe we'll see him again. Or maybe not. I just thought it would be funny if Arthur got in like a DUI wagon accident. What, too soon? The Sense of Right Alliance. The Sense of Right Alliance is an action figure set consisting of Shrek and various members of the Justice League. Okay, so you've probably guessed it by now, but this is not an officially licensed Shrek product. It's one of the many Shrek knockoffs, but this one in particular has become almost legendary. Not only do we have Spider-Man and Batman and Shrek, but I think Lightning McQueen also being included is what really seals the deal here. Like, you have the name, The Sense of Right Alliance, which sounds like a parody of the Justice League, something like you'd see on SNL, and then throwing in Shrek and Lightning McQueen. Like, this set is so good, you almost have to doubt it being a bootleg. It looks like an art piece put together by somebody. It's that good. It's just one of those things where Lightning gets bottled, right? Like, everything happened, because I could see how a Chinese factory at the time would have made this. 2000, like what, 5, 6, 7, right around that point where they were still making, you know, your average superhero toys, but there was this new animated car and this new ogre, and kids loved these things, so you gotta throw them all together in a box. It also could have been one of those things where the factory was like, look, whatever we got gets packaged together, so maybe this was a Shrek from a different Shrek bootleg and a Lightning McQueen from a car set, and they were all just thrown together. A big smorgasbord of leftovers, if you would. Zelda music. There's a Shrek educational game for the edutainment video game console, the V-Smile. It's called Shrek's Dragon Tale, and the game uses straight-up stolen music from The Legend of Zelda. It's actually hilarious. There's a great video by Vine Sauce that looks into it that I would highly recommend you watch. Like all the other Shrek YouTube videos I have highly recommended in this video. This one is also pretty funny. I have nothing else to say other than Zelda music is awesome, so I guess if you're gonna steal from the best, right? Where's the sixth donkey? So after the credits of Shrek 2, Donkey and his wife Elizabeth the dragon have mutant babies known as the Dronkies. And those babies, by the way, are Debbie, Coco, Bananas, Peanut, Parfait, and Eclair. Those names are great. Those are pretty fitting for Donkey's kids. And there's 6 of them. But in Shrek the Third and Forever After, there's only 5 of them. And one of them is missing. According to Wiki Shrek, it's Eclair. And I'm going to trust them on that because I can't tell all the Dronkies apart. Except one of them has crossed eyes. And I think that one is either Bananas or Coco, maybe? Look, I'm a Shrek expert, but I can't tell all of Donkey's children apart. Where's the missing one? Where's Eclair? These are all questions that will be answered in the Donkey spin-off movie. Mark my words, this will be addressed in the Donkey movie. I'd be more shocked if it wasn't addressed in the Donkey movie. And then, maybe finally, Shrek the Third will have some significance. Because we'll find out where that donkey went. Fiona is half frog. Okay, so this is a theory of mine. Think about it. If King Harold is actually a frog that was only given a human form by the fairy godmother, he mated with Lillian, who from what we know is a human. Like, she's completely human. There's no evidence to suggest that Lillian is anything other than a human, but Harold is definitely a frog who's taking the form of a human. So if Harold and Lillian had a baby, that baby would be half frog, half swamp, aka Fiona. I know Fiona does say in the movie that a witch cursed her when she was very young, but I really don't believe this. It's never brought up again, and it's something that is left over from the Chris Farley script. Remember Dama Fortuna? That's clearly a leftover line from an earlier vision of the movie, and like I said, is not addressed again. I was always my headcanon that Fiona's curse is something that she was born with. She's unsure if she's human or frog. She's a mutant hybrid of both, and the Dronkies are proof that you can't have mutant babies in Shrek. So Fiona is one of those mutant babies. Those are all creatures of the swamp. If you tried to imagine what an anthropomorphic frog person would look like, half human, half frog, you would probably come to the logical conclusion of an ogre. Therefore, Fiona is half frog. Shrek 4 warrior Fiona is hot. It's true, she's peak. The wishing star layer. Dulcinea isn't real. In the Puss in Boots Netflix show, Puss in Boots has a girlfriend, but that is not Kitty Softpaws. Her name is Dulcinea, and she is this cat that is like Puss in Boots' ideal woman. She is a damsel in distress with a little bit of sass, but not like Softpaws at all. She's very sweet and very dainty, and she lives life by like limericks and poems. She carries this book around and she always says poems. But I hate to break it to you and Puss, but she isn't real. So, spoilers for a show that nobody's gonna watch, but near the end of the series, it's revealed that Dulcinea is not actually a cat. She's a form of magical goodwill energy that represents like goodwill in the world called a tulpa, and it has taken the form of a cat. And a twist like this isn't too expected if you know that Dulcinea is an adaptation of a character from Don Quixote. So in Don Quixote, he creates this fictional imaginary bride named Dulcinea that is this damsel in distress that always looks up to him. And she isn't real, she's a figment of his imagination, but she represents the perfect bride. And remember, the Puss in Boots TV show is partly an adaptation of Don Quixote. So Dulcinea, I mean, she is real. She is a mythical, magical being. Near the end of the show, like, she gets this armor on, and she gets a more true form, closer to what her spiritual self would be. But she is an ethereal creature, not exactly a real anthropomorphic cat. I know this is breaking the hearts of all of the Puss and Dulce shippers out there that love the Netflix show. Frank Wells' tragic death. So going back to this, Frank Wells died in a helicopter accident, very tragically, leaving a vacancy at Disney. Katzenberg was promised this vacancy. Michael Eisner got cold feet and decided not to give Katzenberg a promotion that he was promised. And because of this, Katzenberg left Disney and created Shrek as the greatest revenge movie ever made. Basically, long story short, it kind of makes you wonder if Frank Wells had never gotten on that helicopter or never gone on that ski trip, we never would have gotten Shrek. Shrek only exists because this guy died in a horrible accident, and that's just crazy to think about. Now, I know Shrek the book exists regardless, and the book was being adapted. There's all those drawings of that Don Bluth-style Shrek and the Steve Martin donkey. And the Shrek book was so popular that I have no doubt in my mind that even if Katzenberg never left Disney and Frank Wells was still with us, we would have gotten an adaptation of Shrek. It was gonna happen no matter what. But it probably would have been closer to a Troll in Central Park or Pebble and the Penguin. I mean, you look at those designs and that's what I think of. Something that's 2D, more traditional. Maybe Don Bluth. Don Bluth would have been a good fit for Shrek. And it would have came out, it probably would have bombed at the box office, because the Chris Farley looking Shrek's kind of ugly. And it would have been a cult movie. It would have been one of those things where like, hey, remember Shrek? Shrek's great, like how Cats Don't Dance is remembered, right? Cats Don't Dance is an amazing movie, but it didn't exactly light up the world of animation, not like Shrek did. It's kind of weird that the Shrek movie we got, the iconic and amazing movie, is a mean-spirited revenge movie on Disney, all because some guy died horrifically in a ski trip accident on a helicopter. Like, that is just awful, and just really makes you think about the butterfly effect and the world we live in. Things happen, and because of those things, strange things happen. Gets you really thinking. Shrek 5 will have a time jump. I don't think Shrek 5 is going to pick up where Forever After ended. Forever After is not fresh in the audience's minds, and characters like Brogan and Cookie, I'm so sorry Cookie, I just don't think they'll be in the movie. I think Shrek 5 will be a soft reboot, because the movie has to reintroduce the audience to the world of Shrek. Now, thankfully, we live in a world of streaming and meme culture and internet clips where Shrek has persisted despite being a 20-year-old movie. People still know Shrek. People know Donkey. That's why there's a Donkey spinoff. And people know Puss in Boots well enough that he got 2 movies. So a Shrek reboot isn't going to have the legwork of previous reboots. The character is just so ingrained in popular culture with young kids and adults still to this day that you don't have to reboot Shrek. We don't need to be, reintroduced to all these characters from scratch. But at the same time, you don't want to throw all of this deep Shrek lore at the audience. They'll all be very confused. Except for you and I, we'll know all the deep Shrek lore, but the regular audience won't. It would be easy to age up his kids. The ogre baby trope is played out. We had, 2 movies of ogre babies and more merchandise than anyone could ever imagine. It's time to age up Shrek and his kids. Now, I know Despicable Me recently didn't do this and got a lot of pushback. But a movie like Despicable Me is a slapstick comedy. It's not here to offer commentary on society, not like Shrek is. Shrek has always been really on the pulse of things. If you look at Shrek 2, it's often referred to as the most 2000s movie ever made, and it truly is. From Livin' La Vida Loca to its commentary on celebrity lifestyles of the 2000s. It was right on that pulse. And I think a Shrek 5 will also be right on that pulse. It'll talk about YouTubers, they'll have TikTok, and the best way to have this is to age up Shrek's kids. Now, Shrek himself doesn't have to be that much older. I suppose they could go for an old Shrek, but you could just say ogres are eternal or something like that, and have Shrek just be a grumpy dad, and have to reunite with his, Generation Alpha, Gen Z kids. I think there's a lot of comedy you could draw from that. I think the time jump will be maybe more like 10 years or 12. His kids will be teenagers. But that's just speculation. And finally, we have Shrek is peak male performance. This is a hard truth that everyone has to accept, and that's that Shrek is what the internet calls a Giga Chad. Think about it. When have we had such a positive male role model in animation? Shrek is comfortable with his body and who he is. He's just awesome. Like, we guys don't have an icon like that. Sure, you know, the ladies have all the Disney princesses. They're so fabulous and beautiful and all that, but that's not what guys want. We want a character that talks smack. We want a character that's a little gross, a little brash, but also cool and confident, and perhaps most of all, schlubby. Look, Shrek has a dad bod, okay? He's not exactly the chiseled, God of War Kratos type character we're used to seeing with fantasy. I mean, I could think right off the top of my head, you know, Conan, even Cloud from Final Fantasy. These are unrealistic male expectations, but Shrek is achievable. Any guy can look at Shrek and achieve that awesomeness. And Shrek is a father figure. He's a proud father with 3 beautiful kids and a beautiful wife. Ogress Fiona is absolutely gorgeous. Also a role model for women, a plus-sized role model in fiction, which is very rare. A beautiful one too. Like I said, Shrek for Fiona. Great design. What's not to love about Shrek and his family? They are truly, you know, all-American icons. They are fantastic role models. I think their message of not wanting to fit in and rejecting the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, it's about being happy with the body you're born with, being happy with yourself, becoming a father and raising children. Heck, Shrek owns his own land. What I'm saying is that Shrek is absolutely based, okay? If you made it through this whole video, you are a Shrek king. No, a short king, like Lord Farquaad, yes. Okay, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching, and have a happily ever after.